let's get started. We have a panel full of panel members. Welcome on behalf of FC International and FC Hawaii. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm joined by my co-moderator, Colonel Andy Brokaw. I've known Andy quite a while. We go back to the Pentagon days, and maybe before. But all that to say is, it's an honor to be here with Colonel Brokaw, co-moderating this panel. How are we doing with the Tyranny of Distance in the Pacific? That's an old phrase, and I think by now we would be over it. But just getting people here today demonstrated the difficulty that we have with how big the Pacific is and how difficult travel is. And we have two very dedicated, devoted colonels with us. Colonel Alex Peak, who came here from JBLM. That was not an easy feat. And Colonel Byron Brown from Korea, 1st Brigade's commander, got here somehow. And so not an easy thing to do. So let's give those two gentlemen a round of applause to get started. I'm going to ask Colonel Brokaw just a couple of questions, just kind of break the ice, from his career, right? So from your Pentagon days, well, first, where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, and
Go Bulldogs.
Go Dogs. I was out in Augusta just a couple months ago, and you go down by the river, all you see is a bunch of red G's. Georgia.
Oh.
Go Dogs. Anyway, from your past Pentagon assignments, plural, what's your favorite Pentagon assignment and why?
Well, I've served a couple times in the Pentagon. Once when what was called the Network CFT first stood up, the Network Cross-Functional Team, and I worked there for about 6 months, and then I worked on the Army staff for about 6 months. The third assignment I had, I worked on the Joint Staff in an organization called OCJCS. So all three were wonderful assignments. The Pentagon's a wonderful place to get to have that experience at the enterprise level. I learned a lot from the cross-functional team about the ASALT community, acquisition, and all the new technology coming into the Signal Corps. My boss was Major General Gallagher, retired now, and learned a tremendous deal from him. So to be honest with you, I got exposed to a lot of things on the Army and Joint Staff, but the Network Cross-Functional Team is the most exhilarating assignment that I had with my ties to the Pentagon.
At the Pentagon?
At the Pentagon.
At the Pentagon.
Pentagon, right. Fort Belvoir.
Yep. All right, maybe final question. North Georgia. Why North Georgia?
So I'm an alumni of the wonderful military school in a place called Dahlonega, Georgia. If those of you who've been to Ranger School, you've went to Camp Merrill, that's right there. To be honest with you, I didn't want to join the military when I had nothing to do with it. And one of my best friends in high school convinced me to join the National Guard. I applied to UGA, Georgia Tech. I have family that went to both institutions, and then never even heard of this place called University of North Georgia, which was North Georgia College back then. So I didn't have a funding solution to go to college, and didn't want to go into too tremendous amount of debt like a lot of people end up doing. So ended up joining the Army National Guard. My best friend talked me into it, and both of he and I went up there as cadets and served in the Georgia Army National Guard for about 4.5, 5 years in the time that I was there. Went up there, was a cadet, wore uniform to class every day, and just loved it. And never looked back. So no really rhyme or reason, just really needed money and a cheap way to get a college degree.
Well, several notable alumni came through that school, so I'm just pointing that out. So Colonel Brokaw is going to kind of frame the discussion today. Maybe tell us why it's so difficult to work within this AOR. So tell us about it.
Sit or stand?
It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah. We're waiting for the map to come up. Imagine a map of the Pacific.
So
right?
what you should see to your left, my right, is a map of the Pacific. Just a couple of data points I wanted to kind of talk about that. But it's a map that talks about where the 5/16th and 311th elements are arrayed across the Pacific, to include 1st Corps at JBLM, because we've got Colonel Peak here, and my sister brigade commander, Byron Brown, at 1st Signal Brigade in South Korea. But just a couple of comments to kind of help set the stage and talk a little bit about the Tyranny of Distance of the theater that we serve in. This is the Department of War's priority theater. It actually covers 51% of the Earth's surface, covering or spanning 13 time zones. It has 7 of the world's 10 largest armies, foreign armies, right? It is the most disaster-prone region in the world. It has the 3 largest economies, 6 most populous nations, and in the operating environment is ranging from severe cold in the Arctic to the jungles across the Pacific and mountains across the entire AOR. And then I'll kind of shift gears to talk about what the brigade supports. Like I already hit on South Korea, and the 1st Signal Brigade stays on the South Korean Peninsula. The 5/16th basically has the remainder of the Pacific with direct support and located in Japan, Okinawa and Camp Zama in Tokyo, and then they also have elements that are in Guam to run the RHN. And then the 30th Signal Battalion is in Hawaii, but they have elements in Kwajalein, so we have assets there. Shout out to 30th. And then up in Alaska is where our other major location is. And there's actually 3 locations there. Fort Greely, which is a wonderful place, very windy, very cold, very, very austere. And we have one of our, he was staff sergeant, right? Sergeant first class. I retired. Just recently retired. Good to see you. And then they've also got J-Bear in Anchorage, and then Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks area, right in the interior of Alaska. So we are the most geographically dispersed brigade, and in the most, the Tyranny of Distance, the largest theater on the globe. A couple of numbers to throw at you with, I'm not sure about Korea, but they have their numbers. In just the brigade, on Nipper, we support 50,000 customers and 9,000 customers on SIPR. And we didn't get the map up, but if you can just visualize that. That kind of, sir, that's what I wanted to do to kind of set the stage.
All right. Let's do quick intros, and then we'll do a first round of questions for our panel members. And I'll ask the intros. Tell me, who you are, what your footprint is, and what you represent in terms of geographical space that you support. And if you're doing exercises, like how far out do you reach, et cetera. And we'll just start with Colonel Brown.
Is this up? All right. Hey, so I'm Colonel Byron Brown. I'm the commander with 1st Signal Brigade. Recognize a lot of you out there. So, of course, we are the executive agent for all of Korea, providing Nipper, SIPR, and Centrix K. We do that out of the brigade as well. We also handle all the command and control towers across the pen and provide communication support, GO-in-A capabilities, not just to Army assets, but also out to USFK, the Joint Force, out to the Navy, as well as the Air Force and coalition forces with CFC and UN Command. And, Andy, you threw me out there, with the numbers and stuff like that. This is a rough estimate, but I think for SIPR, we're supporting about 37,000 Nipper, we support about 37,000. For SIPR, we support between 8 and 9, and then for Centrix K, of course, that fluctuates depending on the time of the year with the exercises, as low as 2,500, and I think as high as, we've gotten up to 12,000 over the last couple exercises, just with the surges and stuff that have come along. But, here representing Korea, so if you have any questions or anything for me to take back also to the J6 and the G6, please feel free to send them my way. I'm more than happy to take them that direction. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Alex.
Good morning, everybody. Alex Peak, I'm the 1st Corps G6. 1st Corps is the Army Forces provider for the Pacific. So the vast area that was just articulated, over 51% of the world's globe, we were responsible for putting boots on ground in all those areas to cover down on ranging environments to the Arctic, to the jungle, to include the land masses in and out of the Pacific. First Corps at this particular moment in time encompasses 4th Infantry Division, 7th Infantry Division, 11th Airborne Division, and 25th Infantry Division, and to include the 1st MDTF, Multi-Domain Task Force. So when we're talking about complexities of the signal network and having soldiers being able to communicate at echelon down to the squad level, that is First Corps' responsibility to include being a joint task force when called upon.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Rose Alvarado. I am the 8th TSC G6. My role in the Indo Pacific is very interesting, right? So I live half of in land and half in water, and so when it comes to where we play in the role is we really pull from that strategic end, the back end, all the way down to the endpoints, right, across the west of the IDL. So we have the Army watercraft systems as part of our inventory. So not only do we have to move across the highway that the left and the right partners build, but I actually have to execute that command and control on water. And so my requirement really is joint focus. I have to partner with, just like the Joint Fires Network, and I want to give a shout out to Brittany over there, my 94th AAMDC partner in crime, right? And along with Adam, who enables what we do forward. And so talking to the Air Force, talking to the Navy, talking to the Coast Guard, and talking to commercial entities as these watercraft and our C2 arms sort of crosses this vast ocean is where the challenge lies. The cyber threat is real, it's constant. It's not just when the systems are on, it's also when they're off. And so the challenge that I pose and that I always look at myself when I talk to General Garner is, what is the latest time information is of value, right? It makes no difference if I get the data to the edge, but it's too late, right? It doesn't matter how resilient and strong the network is on CONUS. If I can't get it forward, it's irrelevant. And we have lost the advantage, right? And so, again, the threat is real. It's constant, constantly evolving. And yeah, I'm just glad to be in this panel with all these great teammates.
Whatever. Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Brinkman. I'm the 25th Infantry Division G6. I'm also dual-hatted right now as the 125th Division Signal Battalion Commander. So in both those roles, I'm the senior communications officer within 25th Infantry Division. We're currently a transformation in contact unit along with a lot of our fellow infantry divisions across the Army right now. And part of that was standing up or bringing back rather the division signal battalions back as the division becomes the unit of action. From the G6 side, we're also one of the next-gen C2 units that the Army is experimenting with. We're a little bit different than 4th ID in that matter, in that we're software only, right? So you look at 101st, you look at 82nd, you look at 25th Infantry Division. We've all been given a bunch of kit by the Army through PEO C3N, and what they're really interested in is how does the current hardware set work by doing only software or software back-end architecture updates and upgrades, right? Just like everybody here, huge contiguous landmass area support partnerships in the Philippines, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. Phenomenal opportunity, and echo Rose's statements. Great team up here, and see a lot of great faces and partners in the audience too. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dan Murdo. I'm with U.S. Army Japan, U.S. Army Pacific G62. So I work on the programs, projects that currently connect our Army joint and combined teams across the theater. So as the Army Service Component Command to Indo-PACOM, we're in charge of the entire theater, which consists of over 100,000 service members, nearly 36 countries, as has been alluded by the previous panel members. And I think the easiest way to really address, the tyranny of distance, the biggest effort that USERPAC undertakes is Operation Pathways, which is the exercises by which we exercise with both our joint and our multinational partners. And I think the easiest way to kind of lay out how USERPAC supports getting after the tyranny of distance is our lines of effort. So our line of effort 1 in the USERPAC G6 is establishing the Army Unified Network, leveraging Army Unified Directory Services for a command that is perpetually on the move, and continuing to work on Azure Virtual Desktop and Microsoft architecture similar to the ones that have been set up in Virginia and Arizona. We're looking to build one here in Hawaii. LOE2 is deploy resilient cloud-based data fabric. So this goes without saying. The warfighter needs the data, and they need the network, and they need the edge computing forward west of the IDL. So we work in that effort immensely. LOE3 is enable the command and control of the theater army. So like I said, a big part of that goes to how do we get these capabilities to the edge? How do we extend transport? How do we get access to multiple forms of transport, whether it's PLEO or 5G technologies or fiber with our partner countries through partners such as DISA. And lastly is LOE for facilitate interoperability with mission partners. So I've had the privilege of serving in USERPAC in many different capacities at US Army Japan and 25th ID. And over the years, the one thing that I've seen is, it comes down to that mission partner interoperability. Swivel chair is all well and good, but when the environment becomes contested and congested, it requires, lightning fast decision making. So enabling that for the warfighter, our joint partners across the Indo-PACOM components, as well as our multinational partners, is key. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Tom Stahl. I'm the 30th Signal Battalion Commander. So our mission, just like Colonel Brockhoff said, right, we have a large amount of customers. We provide the Department of War Information Network here on Hawaii and Kwajalein Atoll. I would tell you that as the commander here, we have a large responsibility of, one, keeping our network as good as possible, and then at the same time trying to put out all of the fires that we have within all of the customers that we have. So the 3 partners right next to me, they all have their tactical missions to provide everything at the edge. I have to ensure that my team provides the strategic network that keeps them afloat when they're doing their warfighting functions, right? It is a very daunting task to manage what is a priority when we're dealing with things every day. And I would say that, the one thing that I would mention about the tyranny of distance here is that we are resource dependent and driven, right? So you look at Hawaii and the tropical environment that we deal with. When I, as a commander, deal with more issues due to power and cooling infrastructure, that takes away my time to long-range plan to build our network, right? So I would say that as I ask through future engagements, right? That's what I ask for you guys to look at, is how do we get our network a little more clean and more efficient. So thanks.
Just an observation. It's a large panel, and so therefore each person won't get to speak a whole lot during the hour that we have. But the so what is that every person here, every leader here represents a different aspect of communication capabilities in the Pacific, and they're all different. And somehow it all has to work together. And one of the challenges is that as we advance and do better in our capability to deliver, the requirements, what we deliver, increases at the same time, or outpaces our ability to increase that capacity, right? So our bandwidth is so much better today than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. But the demand on that network is so far greater than it was 10 or 15 years ago. So this is this continual challenge of how do you deliver to the edge. And so each of these leaders has a different perspective, and kind of a once in a while, we all get together like this, and we kind of learn from each other at the same time. Like, I didn't know you did that, type stuff. So Andy's going to ask a question of the group. Go ahead.
Hey, really, y'all hear me? Test. All right, that's much better. Just a couple of thoughts. to dovetail off what General Yee just said, lots of experience here on the panel from very talented officers, and they kind of hinted around a couple of the challenges or talked about their capabilities or maybe the big projects that they're going on or even into their LOEs. A couple of the overarching elements that I think are a challenge in the theater is the ability to be integrated and to practice interoperability. Because each one of these people here represents a landmass that is in the Pacific minus Japan and Alaska. And we've kind of touched on those. But kind of what, beyond those, what I'm just mentioning, if y'all could talk about a little bit more of what your challenges are, or maybe those identified gaps, and how you doing? Are you getting after it? Do you need help? And kind of the follow-on to that is, a lot of industry partners here this week, they all want to help, and they want to know what our challenges and our gaps are, because we're all on the same team as we are doing our best to provide comm support to USERPAC and all of their elements in the theater. And if and when, there's conflict turns into crisis, we are best postured to do that. So a couple of things in the 5/16 we do is we talk about space redundancy, fiber, undersea cable type redundancy. It's kind of the biggest thing that we focus on moving forward. Beyond that, us and 311th are moving equipment to various locations west of the IDL to deter the threat from China and to deter any conflict from going into crisis in the future. Not very signal heavy, more kind of in the logistics lane. So maybe Rose will talk a little bit of that from the TSC perspective. And I just wanted to add on top of that, under the campaigns of USERPAC and Pathways, there's about 44 exercises every year that involve First Corps, that involve USERPAC, that involve 11th Airborne Division, 25th Infantry Division, 7th Infantry Division, all the major key players, and 8th Army and the elements in South Korea. So there's plenty of opportunity to get things around the battlefield, to practice integration, to practice interoperability. And kind of what I want to open up to the team to talk about is what are those challenges that you see, because we've got a bunch of willing and able partners that want to walk step by step with us to help fill in those gaps, provide better interoperability, provide better integration when we execute these USERPAC campaigns called Pathways. So I'll turn it over to you, Byron, for thoughts.
Andy, that is a huge question with a lot of sub-questions and a lot to unpack, but all good. Hey, so even as the 1st Signal Brigade, I've got we support 8th Army, as I mentioned earlier. So, we pretty much provide the DOIN or DODIN support. And, as I'm trying to take a look at the problem set of the tyranny of distance and try to unpack exactly what that means, there is a lot that really goes into it. I could talk tyranny of distance on the peninsula itself, with all the mountains, with the ruralness of the area. How do we talk lower TI? How do we talk upper TI? How do I extend services out to various locations in case of crisis or conflict? I could talk also, off-pen, and that's where I think I'm going to focus my discussion points to try to keep it a little bit short, is how do we do that tyranny of distance off-pen? So, primarily we use the undersea cables, right? But when we start looking at transport, we need to look at it just like a talk would, a PACE plan. We have, of course, our SATCOM capabilities that are out there, but those have some unique challenges. We have emerging capabilities such as Starshield and trying to tie in, but even Starshield has its own unique challenges on Peninsula. There is a very real possibility of being isolated, really, when it comes down to it. I've actually seen this when I was a battalion commander up in Alaska. I was up there when we got isolated twice over the course of the 2 years that I was there. It is a very real possibility when you have to depend on undersea cables, because the cables can be cut. The landing sites can be burned up. You start talking single circuit paths that are out there that, can be cut, can be basically made not to work. So how we are getting after that is trying to build sort of a pace plan, or what we call transport in depth, where each of my teams, each of my locations, we're training, we're modernizing, we're re-looking at how we do operations so that it's not just tactical, it's not just strategic. It's basically we're providing support to the warfighter, and they could care less. So when we take a look at it, for example, one of my locations that we set up, we send out an SNN team out to that location. We tie in the fiber optic line. We tie in the Star Shield, the Hawkeyes, the Phoenix terminals, the Trilos, and we connect it all in. This is going back about 20 years when you start thinking like a grid pattern for communications, so that we have that transport in depth. All right, so as we try to look at that transport off-pen, it's how do we build that redundancy and that resiliency in the network so that basically we're making it so tough for the adversary to infiltrate that they just give up. The other piece to this to look at is, if it does happen, how do I have resiliency and redundancy in my data and my applications and my security on-pen, so that if I do get isolated, that I can still operate and still fully be able to provide communications to the warfighter. So, cloud capabilities are absolutely phenomenal. But a lot of the cloud capabilities, the security capabilities, I have to reach off-pen in order to be able to utilize. So, how do I create that front edge in the capabilities that I have on-pen so that if I do get isolated, just like, a cell phone, if it loses connectivity, as soon as that connectivity comes back on, it starts syncing back up again. Well, same thing with the data and the apps in my data center and across, the warfighter capabilities is, if it loses connectivity, how does it just go ahead and then still be able to provide the services and support that it needs, but then as soon as capabilities come back online, that it can go ahead and sync back up. And then, so I don't keep on going, the last piece to this that I have to keep in mind is tyranny of distance isn't just communications. Tyranny of distance is also looking at it through the lens of the warfighter. So basically what that means is that if crisis was to occur, the distance alone, I'm not getting replacement capabilities, I'm not getting, kit for weeks, potentially months. All right? It's not like it's going to be there right off the get-go when things start to happen. So I go with what I've got. So making sure that all my DA civilians, all my contractors, all my green suiters are all trained and think outside the box with what we've got, so that we can provide the best services that we can. But I'll go ahead and pass it over to Alex.
Well, you pretty much said all the things I was going to say. So one of the biggest challenges with First Corps is how do we maintain resilient, low latency, and secure communications across multiple time zones, across multiple terrains, and multiple political boundaries at scale down to the echelon. Andy hit on a lot of the things already. Understanding one of the key things I have to worry about is diversity of transport. One of my biggest fears is that my commanders, all the way down to the company level, are having an over-reliance on P-LEO constellations, especially when we are in a garrison or a training environment. But what happens when we're in conflict or in crisis? And those assets are no longer available, or they're being jammed. And oftentimes people think P-LEO can't be jammed, but it can be. And with how we are functioning and leveraging a lot of cloud services, that creates significant challenges in that the bandwidth that is available on P-LEO is not available through other transports. So that brings up the second issue, which Byron hit on, is edge node synchronization. Right now, throughout all of the 4 divisions that I have and the MDTF, we do not have a good solution for edge node synchronization. And what I mean by that is a mobile, capable server in a box that has GPUs or NPUs, doesn't matter to me which one, I'm agnostic, but has enough core, enough data, and enough processing power to continue to do the compute that we leverage in the cloud, especially on Maven Smart Systems. That's very challenging. And then in addition to that, within the core, we're developing our very own bots. We're leveraging AI, ML, LLM type capabilities. That's all in the cloud. But again, in competition, in crisis, and conflict, when disconnected from those large pipes, that's going to present a challenge when our commanders, when our formations are relying on Barber bot, for example, that ingests various forms of data and presents a quick synopsis, whether it's coming from chat, whether it's coming from a Word document, whether it's coming from reporting, and it presents probably a 95% solution as to what's going on and able to interpret that data. But that's in the cloud. And our commanders are relying heavily upon that to reduce the ability to do MDMP and have decision-making processes at scale and enable decision dominance. So when that transport is no longer there, that presents a challenge. Then also having an adaptive network design, and what I mean by that is, it's great that we can have interoperability within our joint forces, but when you present our Japanese brethren, our Korean brethren, you name any of the 36 nations that spans the globe, the 51% area of the Pacific, that presents challenges, and it's not just technical solutions that we're looking at, we're talking political constraints. So for example, during Talisman Sabre, we had the ability to connect our TAC SIPR to the Australian Defence Network, which is their secret version. Technically, we could do it. However, from a political standpoint, we couldn't. So then when we speak of true interoperability with our partners, our allies, and the people that we're going to go to war with, those are significant challenges that not even technical solutions can bridge, and we're relying on our political leaders to resolve those issues. And then as far as AI enabling automations, the tools that are out there that we are being developed and that the team in front of me are developing for us, how's that being implemented into our network? It cannot be the cloud, right? There must be consideration for how the software is being developed. It can't be large bits and bytes that's being leveraged on the servers for computation. It has to be something small, because I'm going to put it on one of my edge nodes that I can fit in a plane that I can put anywhere in Kwajalein Atoll or the first island chain or anywhere rapidly. So help me with that. Then of course there's training and pace discipline. That's internal to us, but because of next gen C2, C2 fix, all of the new things that we're getting inundated with throughout the Army, we certainly can't forget about our legacy system. So what I mean by legacy, I'm speaking of your Trilosis, your Smart T's. Smart T's to date is the only assured communications platform that we have. What is industry doing for us? It's not Elon Musk and P. Leo. I need some type of assured communications that is anti-jam capable, so that way I can continue to prosecute the fight and have connectivity to the cloud or leverage my edge node servers. So it's a whole ecosystem that we have to look at when we're talking the complexities and the tyranny of distance, and how we, the communicators, can enable the warfighter at the tactical edge.
Oh. Thank you.
Hello.
I think. Let me try again.
Just jumping in there before you start. These two gentlemen just put out a bunch of stuff just now, okay? And maybe, it's not just, as you're hearing, bandwidth, which is a forever challenge. It's time and space. Did I just lose my... It's trying to schedule a meeting, right? When you cross the IDL, just scheduling a meeting to be on the same, page in and of itself is a challenge, let alone trying to solve the technical aspects of what you're doing. And if you're looking at the down trace of USERPAC, you got 4th ID, 25th ID, 11th Airborne Division, you got the 7th ID, who am I missing? 2nd ID, right? 2 ID, right? All 5 divisions are on some different platform. They don't all have the same kit. And if you look at the brigades under those divisions, they all have different stuff as well. And so that integration, that synchronization on the basic, comms kit is problem number one every single day for the warfighter. And I know that Adam's probably going to talk about some of his challenges at 25th, but in the meantime, over to Rose.
Let me see if I can get the mic working. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, we'll go ahead. So first, I want to thank industry for your continued commitment to support the Department of War as we continue through the transitions, right? I think you guys have invested your time and efforts to actually push us forward once we sort of took that back to integrate all the things that we already have in inventory, right? So I think that's important. Sir, thank you for highlighting the time and space, because I'm about to take you through that journey, right? When it comes to the Theater Sustainment Command and the missions that we have to support, like I mentioned previously, it's from the strategic edge, right? It's from the organic industrial base, it's from the defense industrial base, it's where the data sits and how I have to move it forward and transition it into those austere environments ahead of the pace that the guys to my left and my right are, right? I have to be pre-positioned in a way that I can create that positional advantage for these forces to get to land. And so that is the big mission set. General Gardner identifies, within the logistical enterprise, his own capability gaps, right? The LOCCOP, Army watercraft, and protection, advanced manufacturing, class 5 innovations, bulk liquid logistics. So what does that mean to me as a signaleer, right? I am in there everywhere, right? And in every piece of it. And so the education of our team has been, hey, I'm here, it's multi-domain, right? As the enterprise sort of takes care of that network on land, edge point nodes, cloud-based systems, I ask you to just sort of think about yourselves, right? Look yourselves in the mirror and just sort of tell me how you're securing by design. It's not a new concept, right? But we think it's this like thing that is over there and is somewhere else when it comes to it. But what I ask is, how are you securing your data centers? Right? Are you thinking on in-depth security? Are you thinking about defense in depth? Are you thinking about physical security? Because that's what we're relying on. We're relying not just on you to give me the fancy SharePoint visualization on dark mode that can do language, large models, and translations, right? Those things are there, great. But now I'm relying on you to host my data, right? To keep me safe from the beginning all the way to the edge, because I got the fight forward, right? Like that is where we are. We take that fight forward. How are you securing and defending the homeland, right? Where all of this stuff is dependent and interconnected to what your ability to secure is. Quantum encryption, right? We are there. The threat is there. So what are you doing to use quantum capabilities to secure what we're doing? Why is it so difficult for me to secure the data that you already are storing for me as I move it across the battle space? It should not be that hard, right? And so you have the ability from that outside perspective to really look to innovate within your industries to see how you do it. It's beyond chip manufacturing, right? It's beyond earth minerals. It's really like, how are we doing that, those ones and zeros? And crypto took off. And you think about it, where did it come from, right? Think about the process that it does. That is hard for us to do. And it is so time consuming. It is not automated. I have 20 different software programs that I have to intercollect and input data into so that I can provide a report and say, I'm secure. Right? And so, again, I just sort of push that forward to be able to have that edge synchronization, right? If I can't meet those gates where I'm securing the data at each of the stage, right? Native zero trust architectures, I won't be able to do anything. And so that's the data moving across. Now we're talking about equipment moving across. So how do I move it across that enterprise? And it's a lot. I can't even get a cable. So why are we still doing proprietary parts? We have advanced manufacturing. We have 3D printers at our homes. And so, but I cannot now employ this technology, advanced and super duper, because I don't have the right end connector when I have to jump from Australia to Japan to the Philippines. And so now I have to go back to the CCOM, right, inside of the Army and figure out where is the spark. Again, This is all signal and technology, but the logisticians are having to solve those problems. That's not the problems they need to solve. Where they produce a cable, where they produce a leg to the stand, right? Swap, small, right? How do I power? It's important, right? Because why is it important? Because we know in the series of typhoons, right? Salt typhoon, Volt typhoon, think about it. Our critical infrastructure in the security of where we are, dual use technology, dual use infrastructure, that's what really hurts when it comes to the theater sustainment enterprise, right? When it comes to anyone that is operating in this theater, we have a vast ocean we have to get across. We're not gonna get there. We're not going to get there. We have to jump a kit, whether it's on a really slow-moving Army watercraft vessel or in a commercial airplane, right? Or a gray tail. It's like, I have to get there, and once I get there, I am on my own. 60 days, right? For my old school folks in the seats, right, is security, days of supply, right? And I think you've heard of this before. I have a data rate consumption the same way that I have an ammo rate consumption. And then I go back to my first point is, what is the latest time information is of value to the commander? Great, you gave me Maven. Questionable what it can really do for us right now, right? Because we are not able to train and execute and employ it, right? I'm putting this in 5 different networks. I'm pushing my Indo-PACOM commander to give me a solution that's going to bridge 20 nations. Right? And what are the routers that I'm going to connect to when I go west of the IDL? They're not American made, right? And so again, that security by design is the first layer, right? And then when I move it, where is it going to end up? And how am I going to continue the fight for the first 60 days while I wait for the airborne to get there? Where I wait for, the medical community to get there. Hi, Captain Briquette. This is sort of the fights, right? Like everybody, all the shiny objects, right? The Army takes care of the warfighters, right? The first corps, the transition of the Western Hemisphere into the Americas, right? We're moving people, and we move kit. But for us, the other sort of enabling units, we're on our own. Right? And we have to keep up pace with the sort of the NGC2 evolvement that's happening across, right? All the innovation, all the kit that everybody's getting. And not everybody gets it. Right? And so again, organic to what we have to do is still security. Security at the base. And so I sort of ask for you guys to just continue to do that. And then, just to sort of geek out a little bit. What are we doing in the space domain, right? It's maritime domain awareness, it's space domain awareness, right? What are we doing to interconnect our satellites? I need a ground station somewhere west of the IDL, great. But how many ground stations do I have to hit back to home base at the East Coast? Do I really need to hit 5 different nodes to get my data across, right? Do I really need to rely on underwater sea cables only? Right? Do I really only need to rely on the ground stations or PLEO or GEO, which, as you go across the Pacific, it gets really far away, right? I'm hopping 5 different satellites when I'm crossing. What else are we doing? Can we interconnect those satellites so the data just goes across and I only choose to pull the data down in the amount of information that I need at the time that I need it? And so again, that's where you guys can help us, because right now we're just busy sort of managing what we have, right? And we got to get there. And we got to get there fast. And we know that our adversaries are going to prevent us from even leaving, right? And so I just kind of offer that to you guys and help us in that space. Thank you.
Good to go. Oh, test. All right, here we go. Hey, team, I'm going to be 3 minutes or less is my goal. All right, I'm going to give you 4 Ps: presence, partnership, persistence, and prioritization. All right, number 1, presence. Vote with your time. It doesn't matter where you are. I'm not going to get super technical because there's lots of great technical acumen up here, right? But like when it comes to presence, you got to be where it matters most, right? And I got to be where it matters most to engage with industry, to engage with my higher headquarters, to engage with my partners on island, right? Second one is partnership, right? It's the tyranny of distance, and generally you hit on it, is how do I manage the time between all the partners, between industry, between my higher headquarters commands, between what my bosses got me doing, between what the brigades have got with different objects that are being fielded. You know, how do I partner with all that and bring all that together in some collective? That's a challenge. The persistence. Past the demo. We got to get past the demo stage, right? So like when you come in, you say, hey, we've got a demo. Okay, cool. How are you going to partner with that, and how are you going to have your presence there? How are you going to make sure that we have the line of efforts, the operational discipline to stick with it, right? Not just the episodic engagement, right? And that's something we have to do better on both sides, both industry and the Department of War. And then finally, prioritization. If everything's a priority, nothing's priority. I know that's an overused cliche, but especially the last year I've learned in Division G6 and now the Signal Battalion jobs, right? Like, I have to understand the prioritization from not only the Army, not only my Corps headquarters, not only USUPAC, and the division. Like, there's lots of competing priorities from the time. So as we talk and we engage, make sure we have that conversation about the problem that you're solving, the capability that we're bringing in. How is that a coexistence? How is that a cooperation, right? So again, I really, really look forward to talking to some folks more, but I'm going to brief for the time because I know we're running short at the beginning. It's presence, the partnership, the persistence, and the prioritization. Thanks so much, team.
All right, I'll do my best to keep that under 3 minutes. With that being said, so a lot of great ideas from everyone to my right here, and I think one thing, there's two ideas that my experience in USUPAC has shown me I think will matter. One is AI-driven network management, and an AI-driven model that can help with dynamic failover. And I say that because the signal officers, everyone up here does a good job of providing, getting the commander a robust pace plan based on transport and based on the services and aligned to the warfighting functions. That's all well and good, but in a contingency when seconds matter, is data prioritized? So that AI-driven software that can prioritize fires data, air defense, medical, and things that are less of a priority, if they can be moved down and they can use transport as needed. Something that prioritizes how and where the data goes for the warfighter. And then building on what a couple other folks have said, AI-driven cyber defense. If you look at history, particularly the books by John McManus about how the Army fought in the Pacific Theater from 1941 to 1945, there was a lot of islands, and there were a lot of creative solutions in that time with the Navy in the formation of joint Army-Navy signal companies that were key in battles like Kwajalein. So it's important to have that AI-driven cyber defense in those remote locations so that they are not truly isolated, so that they have the same level of protection as a major headquarters. So you're going to have multiple things going on across the theater and across the warfighting functions. You can see the map over there specifically for the signal footprint, but think about that when that is laid under command and control headquarters, when you're laying on all your sustainment capabilities, and when you're layering on other warfighting functions and where they're positioned in the theater. So bottom line, AI-driven network management for dynamic failover and AI-driven cyber defense.
All right, I think I have like 30 seconds left, but no. So I think it was talked about at the beginning, right? We have all of these wonderful leaders talking about the tactical edge and their needs and what they need to win the fight. Again, my responsibility is to provide that strategic backbone for them so that they can continue to win the fight. I would say my concerns and my challenges when I look at bandwidth is not really the long haul side of things. It's the local architecture that we have here, right? What keeps me up at night is thinking about my prior experience at U.S. Space Command, and then learning a lot about the data layers that we have, the need for AI, ML, and all those things going from the CPU to the GPU, right? You've got larger power demand, energy demand, bandwidth. And a consistent 24/7 need. So if my architecture here in Kwajalein really have trouble with the basic level of network, then imagine what it would be like if we started getting everybody ramped up on all these capabilities, and then we've got every layer of service component commands to include a combatant command all try to tie into interoperability to win a fight. If I can't sustain it here with local architecture, we're never gonna win that, right? So again, as I've said before, I ask more into how do I better clean up my infrastructure, my network, to support our customers, and then on top of that, not forgetting the cooling and the generation, all those responsibilities, because we're trying to impact all this capabilities and technology as fast as possible. But if we don't sustain it, we're going to spend more time here dealing with outages when we're trying to win a war, right? And I think those are things that we don't think about as much, and we need to start really considering the sustainment of things.
What do you think? Can we get this one on? So you just heard the panel of a variety of different perspectives and challenges. Some of the challenges are not unique to this theater. It's just harder because of the distance to some degree. I do want to call out Pete Gallagher in the back over there. Raise your hand, because Andy called him out earlier and you weren't here to appreciate. I think you were snoozing, so calling out Pete Gallagher. All right, so we have time for maybe a couple of questions, if we have questions of the audience. Any questions? Where's Rob? Go ahead. Can we get a microphone? Yeah. Here. Okay.
Hey, sir. Nice to see you again. I just have one question for you, sir. As you are now in the seat as the DSB, have you seen a shift and a change in the productivity of like centralizing the division signal assets?
Yeah. Hey Jake. Good question. Yeah. So yeah, training readiness and oversight's a huge benefit to centralizing those assets in the signal battalion. I think the coolest thing that I've seen bringing the signal battalion together is actually the companies competing with each other for good ideas, which is something we lost under modularity. And the feeding that just goes on that. Like, we could talk about the C3T construct and how we're deploying teams with tethered drones and star shields and edge devices, but like the technical stuff is all really relevant and how that helps battlefield and sensor to the edge. But like the bringing the team together and consolidating the resources is also huge. And then it was really great walking through our C2 rehearsal this past week and seeing how each warfighting function is now employing these teams differently under LISCO, right? So you've got a support battalion who's doing node clustering, decentralized logistics support. They need signal teams, right? We've got the maneuver brigade is going through the maneuver corridor, and they need data backhaul real time as they're moving. So they need to have a tethered drone set up to do that data backhaul to provide beyond the line of sight horizon to integrate with the data fabric that Rose is talking about. So been really awesome to see that whole construct start to come together. Thanks, Jake. Good to see you, man. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. First of all, thank you to all of you professionals for the time. You know, some of you had touched on it, but I just wanted to see, you know, a lot of these people are definitely the nerds that you're speaking to the nerds, but there's also some people here that are interested in trying to lessen the logistics that is required for such a movement. And the Colonel had kind of touched on it, but the tyranny of distance for moving things and the amount of lift, as you had stated, either Army watercraft or gray tails or commercial aircraft, which will not be there when you need it. I was wondering if you could speak to, you know, what parts can be pre-positioned, what partnerships can be done with multinational partners, or what can we do as a wider community to help with that logistics challenge? And I don't know who that goes to. It might go to you, sir, or definitely one of you too. So, thank you.
So things that we can start doing now and not waiting to exercise, not waiting to crisis and conflicts, is validating the equipment. So as opposed to waiting for Pacific pathways, give me the kit now. right? Reach out to me now, integrate with us now, because we're happy to validate, test, and ensure that whatever capabilities and capacities you're providing, we can give you the thumbs up or thumbs down, or even pass it off to our partners to validate and test. Time now, we are having direct communications with the Australians, who are one of our allies, to include the Japanese. So it's not a question of pre-positioning or what tech you have available. It's the relevancy of what you can provide to us now, so we can integrate it into the network and get reps and sets on it and get familiar with the equipment, as opposed to crisis kicks off and then you're parachuting some type of kit on us and we have no idea what it is, and we're not going to be thinking about integrating whatever capabilities that you have. So those are the things that I would certainly appreciate, and I'm sure Andy would as well, or Adam would as well, to get sets and reps on those pieces of equipment. And then also considering our partners and our allies and having a keen understanding of the political constraints that they have with connecting to us and what solutions you can bring to bear to mitigate those constraints, whether it's helping out Indo-PACOM with the development of the Indo-PACOM mission network, or linking up with DISA to understand the joint operations environment and integrating your kit into that at scale. So that way, you speak of pre-positioning, that's how you would pre-position your kit at the higher echelon, so those partners can just come in and plug in and operate without having to go through a whole bunch of tricks and cheetah flips to get their systems up and operational.
Test. I'm Jermaine Sutton. I commanded the 52nd Signal Battalion about 3-4 years ago. And some of the things that you guys are talking about are the same challenges I had when I was in, especially the power and the HVAC. But my question to you guys, as you talk about some of the things that you talked about from industry bringing in capabilities, software and things like that, have there been any changes in the ATO process that shortens the barrier to entry to deliver those capabilities to you guys?
So there has been no changes necessarily. There is an effort underway by the Department of War CIO to, air quote, blow up RMF, right? And so that is an effort underway, actively underway, once the government comes back to work, I think. So we'll see. I think there's hope. All right. And you had a question. You have a short question? All right. So we're going to do just like the lightning round wrap up here. 30 seconds. What do you want everyone to know? Like, for example, if you're Colonel Brown, like what do you want everyone to know about, Korea, for example? Whatever that message is. Lightning round. Here we go.
So the couple things to keep in mind for Korea. One, we will go with what we've got. Whatever happens, it'll happen quick. And so can't be waiting on y'all to catch up. So think through how we can operate out there by ourselves, and then you guys can catch up later. Second piece to that is if you have anything you guys want to experiment on, hey, while I'm there, bring it on over. We're more than willing to throw it into the system. I've got a little bit more flexibility because I have the mission partner environment. So bring it on over, and we'll see what we can do.
For First Corps, as we're going through our Pacific Pathway exercises, the challenge and the question to industry is, how do you quicken or shorten the sensor-to-shooter linkage? How do you enable decision dominance? How do you ensure that we have distributed communications that are robust and resilient? And to the point that Byron was saying, hey, we do have Pacific Pathways. It's starting for the Corps and the rest of our subordinate divisions in January with Keen Edge going all the way through until 27. If there's some type of meaningful tech that's ready to be implemented, we're happy to be your partners, but let us know, but come prepared with your ATOs and things in mind, so that way we, the warfighters, are not doing the legwork for you, but we're happy to build partnership and capacity and integrate your tech into our networks.
I think I said a lot of the things, but really just look at higher levels, right? How do you integrate with the Department of War? Right? I mean, they just took down JSEDs, and so the opportunity in there to influence is great. Security cooperation, the industrial base, again, home base, right? That's where the president's number one priority, right? Defend the homeland. And so what are you doing in your own world, in your own spheres of influence to protect what you're doing and what you're giving us, and make it fast, make it light.
Keep it simple. Power. Know your power draw. Power generation in the jungle is real hard, and generators make a lot of heat, and that's what kills you nowadays. It's not the 2-watt radio. It's the heat signature that you're generating. So know your power draw. Thanks.
So, in addition to what I said earlier, I think what I'll leave you with is for user pack, just similar to First Core and what Colonel Peak said is Operation Pathways offers a great opportunity for experimentation. So, it's inherent to what USPAC does and what our downtrace units as part of the Theater Army do. So, I think Operation Pathways is a good inject for experimentation.
All I'll say is help me be efficient, right? I'm not really interested in the innovation of things as much as I am trying to clean up my own house.
All right, just a couple of thoughts to summarize from me, and then I'll turn it over to General Reed to close out. Plenty of opportunities here in the Pacific with Pathways campaigns. Love doing experimentation, and like I think Alex mentioned, bring your ATOs. Those help out a lot. The commanders, the on-ground commanders are very aggressive about this and want to get after it. They love innovation and bringing new capabilities for better integration and interoperability. Plenty of challenges here, so we look forward to the interactions that we have with industry to help accomplish those or minimize those gaps and get past these challenges that we have. I just wanted to shout out, thank you to AFCEA and for hosting us and letting us have this time, a little over an hour to spend time with y'all. And last one, shout out to Major Adam Ward, who helped set up this. Saw him pass around the microphones. He was the one that herded all the cats behind the scenes to get everybody together. So thanks, Adam. Sir, over to you to close.
Yeah, never underestimate the power of a major trying to, herd a bunch of colonels and lieutenant colonels into one place at one time. But what a unique opportunity to get this group of leaders together to hear their perspectives, literally from across the Pacific. And so we didn't solve any, major problems today, but I think we were able to articulate just some of the challenges that we continue to have. And as you said, the problems today are similar to the problems that you had a couple years ago, and these problems will persist. That's just the way it is. And our job as leaders, your job as leaders, is to get after it. And that's why we need leaders every day to do what we do in this theater. Let's give this panel a big round of applause.